Rain was coming down in sheets, blurring the city lights into smeared streaks of gold and red. Cars honked in frustration as water pooled along the streets, and people rushed to find shelter under shop awnings and bus stops. James Carter wasn't looking for shelter, he was looking for his son. "Ethan!" he shouted, his voice nearly drowned by the storm. His 10-year-old boy had wandered off toward the corner store just minutes before the downpour began, and James's heart pounded at the thought of him lost in the storm. Being a single father had made James hyper-aware of every danger. Since his wife passed 3 years ago, his entire world had shrunk down to one mission: protect and raise his son. Just as he was about to cross the intersection, a screech of tires cut through the storm. A black SUV spun out of control on the slick road, smashed into the guardrail, and teetered dangerously close to the edge of the overpass. Sparks flew. Steam hissed, and for a split second, James forgot everything else. Someone was trapped inside. Without thinking, James shoved through the rain, splashing across the road as horns blared at him. He reached the SUV just as it groaned against the metal barrier, threatening to tumble onto the street below. Inside, a man was pinned against the airbag, his face pale and blood dripping from his temple. His expensive suit was torn, and his eyes flickered in and out of consciousness. "Hang on," James shouted, yanking at the twisted door handle. It wouldn't budge. He planted his foot against the frame, pulled with all his strength, and finally the metal groaned open. Smoke filled his lungs, but he didn't stop. He leaned in, grabbed the stranger's arm, and dragged him out just as the SUV gave a final creak and plunged over the side. They landed hard on the pavement, James shielding the man with his own body. The explosion lit up the night behind them, flames licking into the storm. People screamed. Cars skidded to a halt. But James didn't wait for applause. He laid the man gently on the curb, checked his pulse, and whispered, "You're alive. Stay with me." Blue lights were already flashing in the distance. Sirens wailed closer. James knew the paramedics would be there in seconds. He wanted to explain, to say something, but his chest tightened as he remembered Ethan. His son was still out there. James glanced once more at the injured man, who was still breathing, and then he disappeared into the storm without a word. The man James saved was no ordinary stranger. His name was Alexander Rhodes, billionaire investor, media mogul, a man whose face appeared on magazine covers and whose name was spoken in boardrooms around the world. Yet on that rainy night, none of that mattered. All that mattered was that a single dad with nothing but grit and instinct had saved his life. When Alexander woke in the hospital the next morning, his head pounding and his ribs aching, he barely remembered the crash. What he did remember was the man, tall, broad-shouldered, soaked to the skin, pulling him from the jaws of fire. And then, nothing. No name. No thank you. Just gone.